artists felt that it was easier for musicians to find influence from fashion, film, literature, poetry, design, than it might be to directly be influenced by a peer. And that was the same for every art form. So if you could bring people together, they could have these relationships in which they could artistically grow alongside each other. And also, every artist has a team, and that team supports them, and that allows their practice to grow. So you need to nurture the teams too, and there need to be casual places where the teams and the artists can interact without just the formality of the job.
こんにちは。読売広告社の水本です。今回は若いアーティストの創造性を育む場の形と題して、ロンドンのレコードレーベルヤングが運営するヤングスペースをご紹介します。イーストロンドンにあるヤングスペースは、さまざまな分野のアーティストやアーティストを支援する人たちのためのスペースで、帽子製造所だった建物をリノベーションした施設です。この施設はロンドンのレコードレーベルが運営しているということもあって、特に音楽系のクリエイターを生み出す場になっています。ヤングの社長カイウス・ポーソンさんは、施設を作るにあたってさまざまな分野のアーティストや企業が一緒に働くだけではなくて、話し合い会話を巻き起こす建物を作りたかったと語っています。ヤングスペースはアーティストのコミュニティを育む場として2022年7月に完成し、そこから2年半の間で300人以上のアーティストが訪れているそうです。ヤングスペースを設計したのはカイウスさんの父親で建築家のジョン・ポーソンです。19世紀後半に建てられた2棟の建物を統合した施設は、帽子製造所の工業的な特徴を生かしながらサロンのような落ち着いた雰囲気のスペースになっています。地下には長期滞在者のためのレコーディングルーム、制作ルーム、ライティングルームなど防音が施された5つのスタジオ、気軽に会話をするためのライトウェル、ミニキッチンがあります。スタジオの中にはプロデューサーでアーティストのクエス・ダルゴさんが運営するレコーディングスタジオがあって、泊まり込みで作業をしていたミュージシャンは、この場所は創作活動に集中できるのでありがたいと語っていました。建物の中心である1階スペースには2つの広々とした共有ワークスペースや集中して作業ができる個人ブース、ダイニングルームがあります。ダイニングは会話を促進する大事な場所だそうで、食事をしながら人々の会話が弾むように、料理人のマフルア・アーメドさんが腕を振るって提供しています。食事代はすべて会費に含まれているそうです。中2階にはプロジェクターを備えたリスニングルーム、ミーティングルームなどがあって、クリエイターのたまり場として機能しています。パーティーや音楽ライブを開催したり、アーティストの作品を展示したりと、さまざまな用途に使われています。ヤングスペースにはファッション、音楽、アート、映画などに携わるさまざまなクリエイターがいて、互いに交流し、刺激を受け合いながらクリエイティビティを育てています。アーティストを育てる都市や文化、場の役割について、カイウス・ポーソンさんに話を聞きましたのでご覧ください。
I love this is my favorite sort of study. The cultural ecosystems and why things happen and how they develop into other things. I read this beautiful book about in post-war Japan, American army radio stations and the playing of jazz and rock music and how that influenced Japanese culture and the bands that came out of that, and then how afterwards, when the government banned the radio stations, the music became much more less influenced by outside doors, and that sort of cultural consideration is super interesting to me. Because, we're a record label, we're a company that works with artists, and I cannot grow an artist. The culture has to grow the artist, and the city has to grow the artists, and then when they're ready to work with, we can work with them. but we can't lay claim to that. And so I'm also very interested in why a city like London creates as many great artists as it does, or why a city like Tokyo develops so many cultural institutions and practices that then influence London. So the whole world has this thing of ripping off Tokyo jazz bars. Everyone has a listening room, or like a jazz whiskey. Yeah, you should go. There's a few. London has got tens of them. And it's all based on people, and the whole world has them. People go on holiday to Tokyo, and they have a beautiful, intimate experience. Maybe it's going to a bar where you listen to a jazz record in silence, and then you try and replicate that back in your own city, and it doesn't work as well because the cultures are different. Yeah, so a lot of New York, London, LA, global culture is based on things that happen in Tokyo mainly. You've never heard of this? No.
We are not aware.
Okay, so Brilliant Corners, which is close to here, is a good example, although it's 10 years in now, so it's very successful, and that was based on Japanese jazz bar whiskey culture. And then they've got a second venue called Giant Step, and then there's a more commercial version of it called, what's the one in King's Cross called? Spiritland. But there's loads of these things. LA, you know.
Okay, so it's an unexpected kind of origins actually.
Yeah, things travel, don't they? You know, they travel and they come back. And
It's actually quite interesting that you have just said, because like these kind of institutions we don't have in Japan, but similar kind of function is like it happens in bars actually.
Yeah.
You know, so like for example, musicians meet with like artists to draw the cover of like CD, or like even like photographer. They kind of meet at like informal places like bars,
Yeah.
you know. So that's kind of interesting.
No, it is interesting. And you know, I'm very interested in why different places, different things work, and why some things don't work in London, but some things do work, and the same would be true of anywhere.
So in the case in Tokyo, the like bars that I just mentioned,
Yeah.
like is kind of like endangered with the gentrification now.
Okay.
So it's kind of a big issue.
Oh wow, that's very, very interesting.
So it's
Yeah, and I think people in the UK especially have this obsession with Tokyo's ability, and I say Tokyo because I haven't travelled around the rest of Japan very much, ability to do one thing very well in one space. So a bar where you just drink whiskey and listen to jazz is unheard of here, because everywhere has to do everything to survive. But you know, even in Milan, you have the ability to go to one shop that does one thing, and I think people are very inspired by the craftsmanship of that, and then that flows back into, and you know, the two speak to each other.
Having said that, this space is like you have a musician or artist publisher, or they just kind of interfuse.
Yeah.
This is something kind of space to make it happen. So independent thing is so interesting, but also we need a kind of junction.
A junction, yeah. And we always felt that it was easier for musicians to find influence from fashion, film, literature, poetry, design, than it might be to directly be influenced by a peer. And that was the same for every art form. So if you could bring people together, they could have these relationships in which they could artistically grow alongside each other. And also, you know, every artist has a team, and that team supports them, and that allows their practice to grow. So you need to nurture the teams too, and there need to be casual places where the teams and the artists can interact without just the formality of the job. Yeah. But it was very much influenced by, you know, Black Mountain College in North Carolina. And the art schools of London, which I never got to go to.
Bauhaus came the Black Mountain College.
Yeah, exactly. cafe culture, any ability where people meet to talk. And we knew that it would have to happen over lunch because it's casual and it's vital. You don't skip lunch. If you make it casual,
Sure.
yeah.
But having said that, like London's art colleges are becoming a little bit not quite going to the right direction.
Yeah.
So to compensate for some of this space like that is really benefit for the young people.
I never went to art school, so my vision of art school is a fantasy. So I can't judge how art schools have changed. But whenever I read a biography of a musical hero I love, they tended to go to art school.
Yeah,
Used to be.
It's just that I'm so impressed about the space, but also I kind of see nice sort of John's minimal design, but also each studio they're making up to some sort of very nice, cozy, homely space.
Yeah, we wanted with a sort of warmth and neutrality of the communal spaces so people can project themselves. But where there is a private space, like a studio, people were able to give it their own feel. And that's why John's architecture worked, because it's like, it's warm, it's inviting, but it's not projecting on you what you want to do.
What is like the future vision of this place? What
To enjoy it.
do it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So much. Thank you so much.
I'll see you in Japan when I come.
いかがだったでしょうか。ロンドンは生活費が高騰し、アートカレッジも商業化しつつある中で、若いクリエイターが自由に創作する環境を維持することが課題となっています。アーティストを育てるのは自分たちではない、都市や文化がアーティストを育てるというカイウスさんの言葉が印象的でした。カルチャーがある意味コントロールできない偶然や出会い、巡り合わせによって作られるような、アーティストもセレンディピティを誘発するような多様なクリエイターの交流によって作られるという考えに基づき、ヤングスペースは運営されています。レコードレーベルが商業的な視点からミュージシャンを囲い込むのではなく、創作の場を街に開放することが都市のブランド化やビジネスの裾野を広げることにつながります。コミュニティ空間が音楽都市のエコシステムの重要な要素なんだと改めて感じました。